Thank you for coming today.
My pleasure.
First off, how I asked you this before, so it's Deputy Mayor or Deputy Mayor Owens, or how do people refer to you now?
My title is Deputy Mayor. Most people, because of where I started in this community, call me Sharon.
Okay, that's fair. What do you prefer?
Sharon.
Okay. Okay, that's gonna be weird to call you Sharon.
You know, it's interesting because some people say that title is very important to members of our community, and so some people only call me Deputy Mayor, or Deputy Mayor Sharon.
Got you.
But
okay.
For this, whatever is comfortable for you.
That works.
Okay.
I met you for the first time through Pathfinder Bank when we were doing the community videos. I remember interviewing you at the Southwest Community Center.
Yep, I remember. I think you had just graduated or close to.
No, but we our company was much more in a younger phase, I think. Yes. So, but I remember like we interviewed a ton of people, and I thought, you know how to interview well. Like you had great answers, and like it was a great video. So that it was great. I have so many questions. So, the first thing that is just on my mind is, I think it was my parents or somebody showed me a picture of you that you were like a professional runner when you were younger. What's going on with that?
So I was in high school a 4-sport athlete, soccer, volleyball, basketball, and track. Sports has always been my thing. I did well in school, probably because I didn't necessarily like school, but I liked being an athlete, and so you had to do well in school to be able to participate. And school, I'm not going to say it was easy for me, but it wasn't hard, but sports really kept me in line. And then the professional runner part is college. So I came here to go to Syracuse University in 1981. And we were still the Big East at that time. I missed the Big East so much. And by the end of my freshman year, I had earned a track scholarship. And I'm a jumper. I was a jumper back then. Long jump, high jump, triple jump. My knees pay the price for it now, but really, we were the inaugural women's track and field team at Syracuse University. So nice. I think that I say inaugural, but I believe it was a year before I got there, was that second semester they started this track team. And so when I came on board, I was on SU's campus, and I come from a small town, and so SU's campus seemed huge to me. And I was on, I think it was Dell dormitory right next to Thornton Park, so that's where I was. Weren't a lot of black students in that dormitory, and so I began to just going to the dining hall and going to, when school starts, you go to parties. And I started meeting folks who were on the track team by scholarship, and they said, "Come down, you can walk onto the track team." And I was looking for, again, sports was always how I was able to balance academia and do well. And so I came down there and started working out as a student athlete. And then by that end of that year, going into my sophomore year, I had earned a scholarship there. And just that team became my family. It also gave me the opportunity to travel all over the country the entire 4 years I was there. We traveled, people talk about college experience, and I said I never had a spring break because we were traveling during spring break. When people went home for winter break, we were here. We were on campus in apartments near Manley Fieldhouse at the time. And so it really was a big part of my college experience here.
What do you think you've brought from back then to now? Like, what still lives in you that kind of drove you from back then?
I get a game face on when I have a challenge. The adrenaline from standing at the end of a runway to long jump or triple jump or high jump. Athlete through and through, playing basketball and taking the final shot. I mean, just seeing the challenge before you and strategizing how to compete it and complete it and get to a point where you can at least say that you've made a difference. That's when I just call that my game face kicks in.
Nice. So I feel like if you're in sports, you have to be competitive. There's got to be that kick in there. So
Yes.
do you feel like that's increased, decreased? Like, did you feel it when you were like younger, when you were a kiddo growing up, or like, has that just always been a part of it?
I always have been competitive. I even, I think academically being competitive. Back when I was growing up, when Regents diplomas in New York State weren't, everyone earns one. You had to take a certain electorate to earn a Regents diploma. And I was one of maybe a handful of black students who actually went down that Regents track. And I remember my freshman year, I took algebra. It's me and one other black guy in the class. And I took algebra, and the teacher's methodology probably would be really frowned upon right now, because his methodology was really kind of like putting you in a position where you're in competition with other people. And the way he did that was, when we tested each week, there would be the row for those who got an A, the row for those who got a B, C, D, and F. And the thing about it is that you will remember everyone in the school knew this methodology and would see who was in what row. So the competitive nature of me would always be striving to push to get to that other place. Now, when you think of that now in this era of education, you're like appalled by that. But for me, it worked. Yeah. It worked. I'm sure it didn't work for every student, but for me, it just, I bombed out. I didn't study. I'm in the D row. That's not going to happen the next time I take this test. So that competitive nature in me arises quite a bit.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that's the sink or swim mentality. Some people are just going to be like, this is the worst. Other people are going to be like, I'm on. So like your name gets brought up often because obviously you're running for mayor, and I've seen some interviews, and it's always like policies and things that have to do with things, and that to some degree I'm interested in. To some degree I don't understand a lot of it, and the rest of the degrees I'm more interested in the people behind everything else. Yeah. One thing was my company was helping Troll out with his campaign when he was going for it, and I remember somebody asked me something, and it occurred to me because all the politics are wild. So I said, I love Troll. Like, Troll's a close friend. I'm rooting for him, but like as a close friend on a personal level, I thought for whoever earns this position as mayor coming up, it's going to be an intensely hard position, and I feel like there's no. And correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like there's no winning, and there's never any winning. There's just different degrees of losing, in the sense of like you're never going to please everybody. And I feel like mental health wise, just everything. We were shooting with him, and somebody started questioning him very aggressively, and I got in a conversation with a person, and after about 20 minutes, I thought, I would never want to do this. There's no pleasing this person. They're stuck in an idea. I don't, so I'm curious, like. To say all that, I would be worried about whoever, like as a friend, just being in that position. Like, how do your family and friends, like, what are their thoughts, and how do you feel about like that mentality?
Listen, the mayor completed his first term. We're probably halfway into a second term. People started talking to me about it. For about a year and a half, I talked myself in and out of it, for the very reasons you're talking about now. The expectations that you're going to have every answer, that you're going to squeeze the juice out of every situation for the betterment of everyone, that you're going to make the right decisions all the time. All of those, the answers are, you're absolutely not going to. The best you can do is stand with integrity, with the best interests of the people, and bring the right people, and not even the smartest people, but the people who have an understanding of how to make government run for the best interests of people. This is the first time I've ever run for office. The politics of it does stink. But what I resigned myself to was not speaking against other people, but speaking about me, about my heart, and about my love for this community. I'm not originally from here, but I chose this place to be my home, and for me that even has more significance. My heart always is like, when I'm in the room and people start the high school graduation shout outs, Bulldog, Cougar, Fowler, ITC, Henniger, and I can't do that. But I am a Nottingham Bulldog mom.
Okay, that's the most important one, the Bulldogs. I'm just gonna say that, so that's good.
Right.
So, yes.
See, it just happened.
Yes.
And so, that kind of community was interesting to me. But I consider myself an adopted daughter. I came from that campus, beginning of my junior year, got an opportunity to do some internship at the Dunbar Center, and I was hooked. I met the families around Central Village, up and down State Street, along South Salina, Pioneer Homes. Just met all those families, met Jan Spates and the crew at Dunbar. And it just a light went off in me that this is what I want to do. Even though I'd majored in economics, thought I was going to New York City, thought I was going to be in finance, it just changed it for me instantly that this is what I want to do. And so when I think about the job of being mayor, it is tough. That's why for 18 months I was like yes, then I was no, and then I was yes. And finally you talk about our family, and I worry particularly about I have 2 children. My daughter will be 35. She's a creative, and my son is 25. Been married for my husband 35 years. But my daughter in particular, we're very, very close, very close. And I worry about her. She's very defensive of her mom, and I'll have to say, it's part of the job. Don't worry about it. It'll be okay. And she's like, well, that's not who you are. And people are just speaking things about who you are that just, they don't know you. And I said, you cannot allow that to get to you, because those individuals, those opinions are going to happen. And I've gotten to a place, I got to tell you, Solon, 2020 was really hard for me for a couple of reasons. One, COVID, we were all just trying to survive and trying to protect people and trying to protect our community from this disease and virus that was just taking people out. I had COVID 3 times,
Wow.
Just being out there in the community because the work doesn't stop. And then the murder of George Floyd and the voices in our community. And I think the hard part for COVID was just making sure that communities that don't have great health choice were making sure that they had the information to make their own informed choice. At the time, President Trump was, president, telling people to inject with bleach, and people
Right.
were believing him.
Yeah,
And so it was the battle of that, making sure people were eating, making sure that, they were getting care they needed to. It was a really scary time because we didn't know what was going on, if it was ever going to end. Was this the new plague of our time? And it was, killing so many people. And then the murder of George Floyd, the voices of our community around police brutality and really the executive order from the governor's office about policing and 21st century policing. And I think the hard part for me around that was not interacting with the call for justice from the community, but for 30 years I had been part of the community that was raising their voices. And for some people, there was an instant shift that because you're in government now, you still don't believe the things that you believed before you went to government. And I had to get to a place where I said, I haven't changed. Your perception of me changed, and I'm not sure why, but at that 2020 was hard. And when you talk about emotional health and mental health and taking care of yourself, that was the year that, as we went into year 21, and I had COVID again, it gave me a minute to slow down and to really think and to really focus on my own mental health. There was a moment, we get notices from the 911 center on the notifications, the 911 notifications. They come straight to our phone. There was a moment, I had to turn it off for a minute because it was constantly going off. So every 911 call, and you had never had a moment to just for it to be just a moment to exhale for a moment. So I had to turn it off. It didn't mean that I didn't get the information, whether it was the police chief, the fire chief, the mayor, our comms team. I always had the information, but it wasn't constantly a barrage. And I don't think it can be considered neglect of my duties. It was understanding that I needed a balance at that moment in my life. But coming out of 2021, 22, we move forward. I'm learning more and more. Like tomorrow, I think I have to be at 4 things. 4 things. And I'm grateful to my coworkers, because Sundays are pretty much my downtime, unless there's something else. And I've been very protective of that, needing that to be protected. So you got to have a moment to just exhale.
Yeah, I feel like your specific position, I mean, you've watched Walsh go through his whole situation, like tenure. What do you refer to it as a mayor? Is it like
his term?
Term, yes, term.
Yeah.
I'm obviously not good at the politics.
It's okay.
I think that like you've had probably one of the most, a seat that really sees what happens. I mean, I'm somebody when I have discussions, I want to have them till they're done. I want to have an understanding where I'll change my opinion, you can change your opinion. I'm open to everything, but I want to have it where we have it till it's done. And I feel like that's probably not a luxury that you guys get, which is got to be so frustrating.
It is. Many times there are discussions that go on, whether it's the media or the general public, that we, for legal purposes, cannot engage in.
Sure.
And so we're barraged by perception and inaccurate narratives many times. I always say, be loud, pump your fist, but be accurate. Have the facts.
Yeah.
And many times people don't have the facts because, for legal reasons, most than anything, we can't really speak on it until, say, there's a court case or some litigation or a personnel issue. We just can't do it. And so for me, early on with Mayor Walsh, that was really difficult for me. That, that's just not the truth. And I've come to a place now that I know that eventually the truth, or something as close to it as possible. There's always 2 sides to the story. There's one side, the other side, and then the truth is somewhere in the middle. The truth is the truth, but the perception of the truth is always somewhere gray in the middle of both of those sides. Even when it comes to issues around the community and the police, I have learned there is the police report, there is what the community is saying, and then there is the camera. I'm so thankful for those body cams. I'm so thankful for the visual evidence that we have now. So I've gotten to a time where I used to be, anxiety would go through the roof because of an incident. But now I'm confident enough to say, I hear you, I'm listening to you, I need to see the footage.
Sure. It was interesting because when we started doing work with the police, it was like the bridge, and you obviously know because you signed whatever had to be signed for us to do the work. I think that in general, for the work that I do, and I don't like labels at all, but people would consider me probably liberal, on the liberal side of things. And so when we started doing that work, I had a similar response. Some friends were like, "Why would you ever work with the police? Why are you doing bridge work with them?" 100%, it's a black and white issue. They're wrong. They're bad. And I'm like, I don't attribute that thought process to anyone, anything, any job, any living being. So I do think that the work we've done over the last 3 years was very eye-opening. At one point, we were doing ride-alongs at one point, and I noticed that we'd go to the same places in Syracuse that like I would drive around or even stop next door to. But when you go in the capacity of the police and you just see the lives that are going on and the horrendous things that are just nonstop,
affecting the quality of life of other people around it.
Everybody. Some people are like, "Are you anti-police? Or are you pro-police?" I said, "I am neither. I believe in love and the truth, and that's how I'm focusing on this. And like, you don't want me to be pro-police, and you don't want me to be anti-police. You want me to be nowhere near those two spaces." Right. But to what you're saying, 100%, I think that, I can't imagine the things that you're seeing on that level with what's going on.
I think the problem with our society right now is people are just so polarized.
Yeah.
the majority of us are very much in the middle. And like you said, labels, whether the pendulum swings left or right, the most of us are in the middle. And depending on the issue, the day, our mood, it may be slightly left or slightly right. But it's just either you're one thing or another, and that's just so far from being human.
Yeah.
Even find that on the election trail is, what do you believe on this? And when you answer in a holistic way, it seemed as if you're avoiding the question. No question is black or white. They're all gray in some hue of gray.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I think human beings are complex, and that's the other issue. I feel like with dealing with your position, it's like I can't imagine how many questions get asked of you where they want an argument, and I'd be like, I don't know what I would just be like. I'm gonna go go kill myself. Like, what do you want me to do with that? Like, so I don't know how do you keep your patience level, kind of like some of the officers that are stuck dealing with 5 calls in a row that are all horrible, that have child abuse and then domestic abuse and then drug abuse and then somebody says something about killing their family. You're like, this is like, how do you personally decompress from that?
I will say I get calls, particularly for police. You just said it, 5 calls in a row, and they've seen the wide gamut of the worst moment of a person's life has happened 5 times in a row, right? Sure. And then people say, I just saw a police officer just sitting in the parking lot over there. Maybe he needed or she needed to sit in the parking lot to just de-escalate their own emotions from what they just saw, because I don't know what they just saw. And so that might be where they are. A couple of individuals have said to me, Sharon, your superpower is your ability to listen even when people don't want to have a conversation. They just want to unload. And so one thing that I've learned, I think, is when a person needs to express themselves, as long as you're respectful, express themselves, it does no good for me to try to counter what they're saying. Let me listen to you, hear what you're saying, give you that moment, and then I can talk to you about what you're feeling, what you experience, and give you an answer. And one thing that I try to be as upfront about all the time is that the answer is going to be yes, no, or maybe. Yeah. You may not like either one of those answers, but I'm going to give you that answer. And if I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know.
Sure. Do you have like a favorite TV show, types of movies? Like, what is a favorite restaurant in Syracuse? You're probably not supposed to say that, but
I'm not.
But where might someone see you every? Like, what are your things?
Okay, so wings. I think people are surprised. Midway Wings on Onondaga and West Street.
Okay.
They don't have. I like the ones with no sauce on them. They're the best. I mean, I went home yesterday and I said, "Are these Midway Wings?" My husband was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm killing them." Sauce wings, it depends. I mean, the one thing about Syracuse is great food all over the place. Yep. So my answer to the restaurant is I like to eat.
Okay.
And I love a good atmosphere when I'm eating, when I can just sit back and relax.
I'm 100. I'll take almost less quality food if the atmosphere is calm. If I'm like shoulder to shoulder, I'm having
Absolutely.
A nervous breakdown. I can't do this.
No,
so,
I gotta chill out and have a good time and just eat.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite kind of food, like in general?
Oh man, anything.
Okay.
I mean, and when I say anything, but I probably Caribbean. I love jerk hut. I love bongo.
Nice.
Not only because of the food he makes, but him and his wife grew that business. They're just amazing. But I do go to other Caribbean restaurants. I don't think there's a food I don't like, and I try everything.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I try everything. I'm not a big steak eater. Heavy beef like that, but yeah. Okay. And at home I grill.
Okay.
I love grilling.
Are you a good cook?
I cook because we need to eat.
Okay. That's a very political answer. Okay. Yeah,
I cook because we need to eat. But no, I don't I don't like cooking.
Okay.
I probably spend way more money on takeout and
Sure.
in restaurants than I should. But when I cook, I love grilling.
Okay.
I love going out on the barbecue grill and just cooking.
Do you what do you do for like? What are the Syracuse activities you do? What are the things that you just would, if you could just? What are your favorite things just to kind of decompress in the space that we're in?
I'm a huge movie person.
Oh,
so I
okay,
love
okay.
just watching movies. I have not learned how to love winter.
Okay.
Even
Yes.
though I'm from
Sure.
upstate New York, I just have not learned how to love it. It's funny. There's so many great winter activities to go out. I just don't like being cold. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely a summer girl. It has been really hot, but I love summer.
Okay.
I love Syracuse in the summertime, the festivals. Like tomorrow, 3 of the 4 things are going to be outside enjoying, I'm going to head down to Mary Nelson's. The Latino Fest is going on. The Good Time Cigar Club is having their thing, I'm going to be going to Dr. Coart's memorial service. So I just love just the opportunity to be outside, Clinton Square all summer long. I really like all of that. My husband and I, when I have time now, like just riding along the countryside around Central New York. It's just really great.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What kind of movies? Are you a horror movie person? Are you a action movie?
I used to be a horror movie person, but I can't do it much anymore.
Okay.
I like whodunits.
Okay.
I like at the end to be, whoa,
Okay.
that's what happened at the end. I love when I'm surprised by an ending for something, and I'm equally disgusted and disturbed at the end. Is like, I watched this whole movie and that's how it ended kind of thing. I'm waiting for the big aha.
Okay.
The maid did it, that kind of thing, One of my daughter and I spend a lot of time. We love quoting movie parts of movies, in a normal situation in our family. We'll quote something we love the movie Clue. Have you ever watched that?
I've never seen that.
Oh my God, you gotta watch that movie. But Queen Charlotte for me, I've watched it probably 3 times on Netflix.
Okay.
It's just that period movie with the twist of Queen Charlotte is a black woman, and it's a Shonda Rhimes period series. I like short series. I like give me 6 to 8 episodes and then move on. I don't like those every week you're in a cliffhanger for a whole year. I don't like that. The Wire, I love that series.
That's hardcore.
Just it's the grit of city life. You know what I mean? It's just the real grit of city life, and it's the human story of all of it. So I really love The Wire, and the series I loved the most was the one with the kids. I think that was the third.
Stranger Things, or
no, of The Wire.
Of The Wire, okay.
When the focus of The Wire that season was about the kids growing up in Baltimore. I think that was the third season.
Okay.
And the focus of The Wire in that season was the kids growing up in their environment and how some were able to. Sadly, none of them were able to. One was able to move on to stability, but the most of them just how the experience of their lives and their neighborhood just consumed them, and it just hits home for what we just see in our community. But of all that, I really love that series, but that season hit home for me.
Okay.
Yep.
What's the scariest movie you've ever seen, and why?
Oh my goodness. Scariest one. The horror movies that I've watched are also action related, Blade, stuff like that. With Wesley Snipes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it just I haven't watched. And I don't know why, because I'm hearing everybody says I need to watch Sinners, but I just have not. I don't know what about it won't let me watch it, but I have not watched that. But I love the actors and the actresses in that film. But yeah.
Okay. I would say I thought that was a powerful movie, because some people did not like it because they didn't think it was actually a horror movie. And I thought it kind of rose above being a horror movie, and there was a scene in it that's very powerful, and I think it goes beyond just.
It's no smaller alert for me. You could tell me what it is.
Oh, I don't even. I'll say that there's a musical element to it where they bring generations, and there's a moment where you feel like a higher moment. I love when movies can do that. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. That's what Queen Charlotte was for me. It was the story of King George and his wife from his wife's perspective. So it really was a play off of. Shonda Rhimes is a genius, and just everything she does, I want to watch it.
Okay.
Just that series for me was just brought that historical perspective from a different angle, where the majority or many of the actors and the key figures are black people, and just that angle of it. It's 6 or 8 episodes, and I've warned everyone. I've said, you got to watch this, but you gotta watch it like on a rainy weekend, because you can't stop watching the episodes. So I get calls from people like, Sharon, I was up to 4:30 in the morning watching that series. I said, I tried to warn you. It's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you when you think of like Syracuse as a whole, I mean, what do you think people maybe don't understand about it, or that from the experiences you've now had, what do you see differently about it?
I'll start by saying that it always has seemed like Syracuse has been like the stepchild of upstate New York. You know, it's like Buffalo and the Buffalo Billion and the Buffalo Bills, and, you know, it's a big city, and then Rochester. And there was a time when my daughter moved to Rochester because she felt the art scene was more vibrant in Rochester. Then she since moved back. She sees that picking up here. And Albany is Albany. Albany is its own monster over there near New York City, the hub of government. But I think this moment for Syracuse is we're no longer going to be. We're the hub of what's going on in New York State, particularly upstate now. Even before my crime moment, the drone industry along I-90, really getting the attention that we kind of felt forgotten for a while once the industry started shutting down here. Carrier, New Process Gear, Miller Brewery, where so many people were able to get a job with a high school diploma, and it really built a huge middle class, particularly of people of color in this community. And so when I came off the Hill, all the folks that I would hang out with in Syracuse, their parents worked at all those factories. And so those factories enabled them to buy their first home, send their kid to college. And then when those started going away, it created a different Syracuse that wasn't worthy of the history of Syracuse, as far as the opportunity in this community to really earn a middle income and buy your first home and take vacations and do the things that are just what is normal for people. The normal seemed to become abnormal, and we can't accept that. We worked hard with the Urban Jobs Task Force and to try to get the labor local hiring initiative with the 81 Project. And the thing that, really brings joy to my heart is a young man who's been on the project for about 2 years, who said, this was the first time I ever took my family on vacation. That's what work is about. It's not about going to work and working yourself into a frenzy, coming home and starting over again. It's really to be able to provide a life for you and your family that is not just, we all have to, pay bills and all of that, but to live beyond the crisis moment constantly. And that's one of the things that is important to me, is that we don't become, with the micron moment, with the transformation of our community with 81, Seattle, or these cities that had industry come and then people couldn't afford to live there anymore. And we just cannot become that.
Do you, I'm sure that this is a question, like you're looking at what's happening now, but what would you like to do? What do you see for the far future for yourself?
far future for myself is to, serve in the role as mayor for 8 years. We're the only city in big city, one of the big five, we call it, in New York that has a term limit.
Okay.
Buffalo, Rochester, Yonkers,
I didn't know that.
New York City, we're it. Albany, no term limits. Syracuse has one. History of politics here. I'm not, but after 8 years, retire.
Okay.
Retire.
It seems like a political position with no term limit sounds like a bad idea. For everybody. But
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Do you with all the political things going on, which it just seems like overload for everybody. I think people are dealing with mental health issues. I think there's depression. I think there's the foundation. People just don't feel like there's a foundation anymore. Do you? I mean, when you're in politics in a harsh way. I mean, do you worry about being in a political position and saying something where you have to worry about repercussions on a greater level at this point from, places in Washington or anything like that? I mean, is that a scary thing?
It is a scary thing. I don't want to harm the people of Syracuse, but I also want to be true to the people of Syracuse or who we are. I mean, our conversation before about our diversity and our welcoming stature as a community for all walks of life of all people is under the radar. I mean, communities, I think Rochester, again, was on some hit list from the federal government. I don't want to harm our community, but I have to be true to our community too, and I have to be true to the people who live here, who are making Syracuse what it is, who we are, who she is comprised of a beautiful mix of who we are as people. And I cannot deny who I am in my experience. I mean, I'm 60, I'll be 62 years old in a couple weeks. And so I'm a 62-year-old black woman with 62-year-old black woman experience and perspectives on this world. And so I know I have to be responsible in what I say because I don't want to bring harm to the people of this community. But I also don't want to sell them down the river either,
Yeah.
By being politically correct, I guess is the word. I find myself in a political position, not being a politician. So people say, Sharon, you're a politician, you run for office. I'm a public servant who feel I can contribute to our community in another way, and that's being mayor.
Is there a hardest question or situation that or greatest obstacle that sticks in your mind, that was the one that still stays with me?
Oh, it's when people are murdered. It's when children are murdered, particularly by other children. And what are you going to do about it?
Sure.
So much of it, our gun violence is not. People hear gun violence, gun violence and gangs are kind of intertwined. I don't like to use the word gang because I think it empowers affiliated groups of people that aren't as organized as, like when you think of Chicago or you think of the LA Crips and Bloods. Our problem in Syracuse is very much personal dispute, very much. Somebody said something on Facebook or social media, and the person, took offense to it, and
Sure.
and the way they're going to resolve it is through violence. And it just says a lot about who we are as a society and what models we're giving to each other and to our children in particular, that we can't disagree and be agreeable in disagreeing. Is that the ultimate solution to an offense is picking up a gun. And so it is very much a person's personal decision. The contributing factor to that personal decision is a cognitive mind that is 13, 14, 15, 16 years old with a deadly weapon that is available to them.
Sure.
And so if there's the part that struggles is the community wakes up the next day and somebody was shot, and it starts to become, oh, it happened again, instead of it happened again.
Sure.
And that is the part that hurts my heart, that is not normal. That existence is not normal. It is not normal for our children to hear gunshots and then just continue to watch the cartoons. That's not normal. That, but it becomes part of PTSD and conditioning. That's the hardest question. What are you going to do about it? There is nothing that I singularly can do about it. Nothing. It has to be a collective government, mental health, education, law enforcement, family structure, all of it together.
We were talking about Rashawn Sullivan before our interview began, and I've known him for about 10 years, and it started off with a relationship where he would bring me to places in like the community that other people couldn't get in, and we were doing like a photo book and a documentary as well, and then that moved from that to the work he was doing at Hillbrook. And I would interview some of the kids up there. Those tapes can never actually be seen by the public, but they were for the judges to be able to see a different personality behind these children who have done this horrendous thing, but at the same time may not present in the way that they would just behind closed doors. Like, this is the personality behind this kid. And I'm not, it wasn't to say like, oh, what they did was not terrible and that justice should not be served, but justice, I think, takes on a different meaning when the motive and the mind come from, like you're saying, a 13 or 14-year-old versus somebody who's 25 who's...
You remember yourself when you were 13 years old.
Right, yeah.
Your thought patterns, your actions were influenced by your social structure on that day.
Sure. You
know what I mean?
Yep.
And when that social structure and that... do they have their own personal safety net? I can't ignore the carnage and the harm they've done to a victim.
Sure.
And we should never do that. Many times people say I contradict myself, but I believe what I'm about to say to you. There has to be a consequence for you changing forever the lives of a victim, particularly when you have taken the life of an individual or caused them harm in any way, particularly violently. But I also want to know why you did it.
Sure.
I have to know the why, because there is another individual coming up that may be your story. And I think that is what's the value of the ability for you to video the discussions, is to help, and even if it's to blur out the identity, to really help show other individuals when they're away from the structure that led them to that violent act, who they are, and give them the opportunity to tell the story of what got them there from the perspective, again, of a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old mind. To really educate everyone. Again, you cannot condone the carnage that they caused, but we have to learn the path that got them there.
Absolutely. I thought it was interesting that one of the commonalities with a lot of these kids was a true belief or understanding that they were not going to survive past a certain amount of time. There wasn't an opinion about it. It wasn't angry or sad. It was, yeah, my life will end at a certain time from this. And I thought,
it's incredible.
That's unimaginable in the true sense of the word. I can't imagine that, but I assume that if that's there, so many other decisions come from that just, you know what I mean? Like, that's a powerful thing.
Exactly.
I have another question, I guess, and we don't have to go over this, 'cause I don't want to like get into all of this if you don't want to get into it. But
Sure.
like, one of the things that I hear everybody complaining about is the aquarium. I know there's like politics associated with it,
Yeah.
but I was thinking about it one morning. I'm like, I don't know anything about what's going on. I don't know. It may bring in tourism, may not. Like, this is not my space. But I did. We were shooting with Rashawn. I was going out and doing a shoot with somebody who had been jumped, and he was trying to create like a piece between these two groups of people.
Right.
And I thought, what I do know is, if any of that money could go to youth-funded programs, that's the one thing, like the Mothers Against Gun Violence, Cliff from the OGs Against Violence, Rashawn, everybody, they do say, like, not finding a like a cure, but finding a preventative measure. If that preventative measure existed, it would be more things for kids to be doing. And I thought that's where my mind did think, for the aquarium, how much money is it worth to save one kid from not being killed versus doing the aquarium? Then if you expand that to a greater level, where does that value system fall? But again, I don't know anything about this stuff going on. I know that everybody hears aquariums in Syracuse and
rolls their eyes.
Yes. I think Khaled Bey said, he said, Solon, I have the answer to that. I go, what's that? He goes, you need to have sharks, because if there's not a fish in there that can eat a person, I'm not going. I'm like, that's fair. But yeah, I mean, what's your thought process?
I mean,
on
I
that?
don't want to speak on behalf of the county exec.
Sure.
I mean, people have heard his own words for the reason why he thinks this will actually spur tourism in that area. And to the question that people bring up is the same question. Could 80 million now even, expanded more than that, because he needs upwards of $100,000 to finish the project. Could that have gone to and benefited housing in this community, the youth services? Of course. Here we are right now. So there's actually a building going up over there. So as a city official, I start asking some different questions. The county exec was able to get the ledge to approve the money, other than a small minority of people who said no. But he got the majority, he got the money. Then they said, you have to find the rest of it. He's working to do that. There's actually a building going up now. So for me, as a city official, understanding we're in the city of Syracuse and all of Onondaga County, if it was approved to be built, and it's going to be built because he got the approval, where do I want it? It makes sense for it to be on a water source. Do I want it in Liverpool? Do I want it in Skinny Atlas Lake? Or do I want it in the Inner Harbor? I want it in the Inner Harbor.
Sure.
Now my focus is, who's building it? How is its construction benefiting people in this community? Who's going to have the permanent jobs who are going to work in there? How are our children going to have access to it who can't afford to buy a ticket? Those are the questions now for me, because the building is going up. And so, I'm at the point now where should have, probably, yes. Now we're here. So my questions now are transitioning into, how does its construction benefit the pockets of people who live in this city where it's going to be?
Sure.
How are the children who live in this city going to benefit from it without having to pay a ticket in a city with the poverty we have to enjoy it? And not see buses coming from everywhere else in Onondaga County, and our children aren't enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
And who's going to work in that facility? Will those jobs have sustainable wages? Will they have benefits for the people that work in there? Those are the things that are important to me now, where we are.
I feel like how much of your brain space lives in, like, I feel like you can't possibly set it all down when you go home. So like, do you have you been in it for so long now? Do you just live and breathe it? Is it like just?
You can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I never watched Scandal. I never liked the storyline. Olivia Pope's the smartest person in all of Washington in that whole series. She was in a personal situation that I was like, girl, you're the smartest person in Washington. You know what? What are you doing? So I never watched it. But I don't know what intrigued me this time, but it was like, oh, maybe it jumped up on my feed in Netflix or something. So I started watching the series. I'm done probably on the 4th season now. And I was like, oh, I get why people like this series. And so for me, it's at the end of the day, I gotta watch some. I like movies, so I got a couch that has a recline on it, and so I recline and I just sit there. My husband built a deck. We sit back there, and you can see the TV, and we got speakers, and we just I got to downsize. I don't go as far as reality TV, but I got to veg out.
Okay, yeah.
And some people are like, oh, you're elected official. You can't, just watch mindless TV. I like watching ridiculous lists sometimes because I just need to laugh at something just ridiculous, right? So that I can just, for a minute, and then the phone rings and I'm back in. I'm back in the game. Like I said, my game face. But for that moment, you just have to be able to just do what gives you a minute to exhale. Because believe me, you're going to get the phone call or the email's going to come through and you're going to be back in the game.
Let me ask you this. I feel like I remember when we used to shoot in the mayor's office for different things, I would see the whole wall of mayors, and it's like all white dudes were like 45, 50 plus.
And Stephanie Minor.
And then Stephanie Minor, yes. It was just amazing, yes. And
it was amazing when she put that picture up, because when she put it up originally, it was in color. So people are like, why would she put it in color? Because it needs to be in color.
Right. I remember that, yes.
Yeah.
I feel like I do believe that you will be the mayor of Syracuse, so... congratulations.
I'm running through the tape, but I'm going to work hard to get to the end.
I think representation matters in not like a politically correct sense, but in the true sense of there's a power to that. I think if we could peel back the layers to what representation, not just as a word, means. I think there's a lot of words people hear and they're like, oh, that's just like woke stuff. But I think that representation is like, that's true. You peel back the layers, the words, you take away the word representation, whatever that word, whatever that description is, that's powerful. And I think, what does that feel like to know that, like, you're going to be on that wall, you're going to have kids 20, 30, 50 years from now going through that place? Like, what is that like? Black
Cub did a series, came in and did a filming one day, and the message was, how important is it for you to be deputy mayor? And I said, I think it is important for me to be in that position, who I am. But what's more important about me being in that position for other people through me and seeing me in the position to believe they could be. Because for many communities that have not had opportunity, that have been tamped down, that have been, counted out, they get to the point, they got to feel it. They got to touch it. I mean, like the 81 project, no one's going to believe it until that highway is literally down.
That's true. And then it takes some time, but yes.
And I'm going to go out there and just stand there in my sneakers and look around, because I've never seen this community without that highway.
Yeah.
And so same thing, I think, for, I've had people come up to me who are in my age and older, and come up to me and say, we're proud of you. You're going to do this. We've got your back. Because I don't think anybody ever believed it was attainable. Khalid, launched himself for the last campaign. And so here I'm coming now. And I think I'm getting now feedback that people like, I think this thing is going to happen, and people riding by in cars, rolling the window down, Sharon, stay in there, keep your head up, keep doing it, and that's encouraging to me, because I still got plenty of road to go ahead of me and daggers and everything else that are going to come. But that picture means 1,000 words. That saying is true. I mean, it meant 1,000 words. It meant everything to see Stephanie Minor up there. I mean, that's a wall of men, white men.
Sure.
A wall of men. I think it's important, the image. I think that when Mayor Minor came in, she brought obviously a perspective of a woman in the job. Mayor Ben Walsh, I think, was the youngest mayor. So he brought a perspective of a young, very young person in there. I'm going to bring a perspective of a black woman who's 62 years old at that time, and who's a mother of a young black woman who is the mother of a young man with a disability. So it is more than my skin. It is all about who I am, and that is more than my gender and my race. But that's very much when people look at you, that's what they see. But what is going to come out is my experience and my perception of the world and perspective of the world in this community. because of who I am in that experience, not just as I exist right now, but the legacy of existence of multiple people in this country and in this city.
Yeah.
And having that perspective actually heard through a press conference or heard through a policy or heard. There are many, not many, but there are, we align a lot of times, the mayor's team, but there are times why are we doing that? And how is that really going to affect people? And how should we maybe tweak that approach that we're making because of how it's going to? And that is because I'm bringing a perspective of my existence, not saying anything else about anybody else around the table, but nobody else looks like me or has had my experience. And so I'm hoping that it is going to be a combination of all of those things. The thing I worry about is, with that, just like President Obama, you're going to be able to solve all the problems of the people of color and the disenfranchised of the entire city.
Yeah.
And that is just not a reality.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. That was one of my greatest fears with Chol. I thought with Chol as mayor, and you're not going to please everybody, and you're going to go into one of the hardest times. It'll be, if he perceivably fails, it's going to be because he's black or because he's a new American or because he's Sudanese or any of these things. It's like, that's such a unfair but just reality of a weight that if you are a minority in any way in a position like that, people are going to be like, oh, I knew it because you know what I mean? And that's
to this
brutal.
date, I haven't really talked about the fact that I'm a black woman. I've talked about my skill set.
I love that.
My experience.
Yeah.
About my background and my expertise, about what I've been able to accomplish, about things that I wish I would have changed and how I would address that, about acknowledgement of our triumphs and our failures. I haven't done that. It is now that people are really saying the reality of the history of it. But in the primary, I didn't have those conversations because I had to help people understand that I'm qualified to be mayor.
Yeah.
And that qualification has nothing to do with my skin color and my gender. It has to do with my experience and what I've learned and what I've brought and my ability to manage people, services, money. And you wrap that all in the glory of my womanhood and the fact that I'm a proud African American person.
I had Ima Rahim on here, and we were talking about labels a little bit, and I had said something about not trying to be more individual based versus label based, and a few people said, do you not believe in like letting people talk about, or do you not think it's important to have people what makes up their being, whether it be ethnic culture, skin color, history? I said, no, it's not that. It's that I want to know the individual first, because everything else, sure, maybe I won't know your religious affiliation right off the bat, but represent, and for myself, the way I want to represent myself is so that if somebody finds out like my culture, my religion, my ethnicity, I represent, by the nature of who I am, I represent that versus that representing me, if that makes sense.
There are people who like me because I'm black, and there are people who don't like me because I'm black.
Sure.
And to both of those individuals, the conversation is like me or don't like me after you have a conversation with me.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I 100% love that. Do you find it, what is it exhausting? Are the race conversations with you, or the expectations or the assumptions, do you, in your role or in your life, like what is, break that down for me.
It is a huge responsibility. It's just not mine. It is that of, there are so many African American, Latino, New American leaders in our community who have taken on a mantle of service, whether that is in government, not-for-profit, the business world. It is the, you spoke about it, the innate, what is instilled in us as we grow up, that you have to be better than, you have to work harder than, to be accepted, and to have what you're accomplishing actually truly respected. That is exhausting. And so many people I'm not going to throw out names because I'll forget somebody, but so many people in philanthropy and not-for-profit work and the business community who are out here just making moves and really just doing amazing things out here, and just having you want to be acknowledged and respected for the product that you bring. And so you spend so much time talking about the product and the expertise and the experience and the work ethic and the value, that sometimes you people can get lost in the humanity of who they are, because they're just trying to convince people all the time of their contribution and the worth of that contribution. As you get to be my age, is what it is. You're like, listen, you might have got that out of me at 20 or 30, even 40, but at 50 and 60 years old, yeah, I've done the work. I've run the race. I'm happy with me. I pray that this next generation that I'm so admire, my daughter, yourself, you've come to that realization much sooner than many people my age, that we grew up in a different time. I was born in 1963. I'm growing up in the height of the civil rights movement, the freedom and liberation of the 70s. I'm Black and My Proud and James Brown and all that. And then I'm a absolute old school hip hop head. That's when I came into my adulthood, is, Run DMC and back at Africa Bambaataa, and I'm an old school hip hop head through and through. I have a commitment that I'm going to miss George Clinton, and I'm like really at the fair, right? I'm gonna, so I'm not gonna be able to go see him, but I'm just, I grew up during that time, and my first in my family to go to college, and there were so many people my age that were the first to do a lot of things off of the hard work and sweat of the generation before us that came through the 60s and the 70s, just striving for us. And so that is particularly as my generation, that is a responsibility that gets heavy sometimes. It really does. But it still is what's been instilled in us, keeps us pushing forward and continuing to strive to excel and to do well.
What was it like growing up in the 60s? Like, what do you remember about that?
Oh, my goodness. So I'm 63, born in 63, so I'm not much about the 60s, but I'm coming into my teens, into the 70s. And so, experiencing the 70s line, it's all about music for me, music and sports. And so the speak of a generation you can hear through the music. And so Sly and the Family Stone and just James Brown and all of those amazing funk bands in the 70s that came up out of Philadelphia, and Ohio Players and all of those folks. Just the background of that music, which is another thing that just really breaks my heart, that craft went away. And many young people that we know now that are brilliant musicians learned out of church now, because schools had to downsize their budgets, and where was the first places? Music and arts. And so to hear, I remember going to a MLK event, I think it was at Toker Church, and I was there with the mayor, and the band is just, they going, they're just blowing it, and the mayor was like, that band, I was like, that's church. They all learn the piano, the guitar, the bass, the drums in church. And so it is that as a people, that background, this young woman did a rap for me, and I said every person should have their own theme song, right? I'm gonna get you sucker, that movie. Every person should have their own, and he had the band falling behind him. That's like the story of our life as you go through and you remember moments in your life. there was probably a moment that there was a situation and you got the background of that time playing in your ear. So when you ask me that question, the first thing I think about growing up is the moments in my life, and the background of that was the music that spoke the passion and the voice of that time. And then as I'm I'm going into the 80s, and now I'm at SU's campus, and it's all about old school hip hop then. All about, and house music. Oh my goodness. House music head. There was recently at the oh my God, SU's they're gonna kill me, on Genesee Folk Art Gallery. Okay. Yep. There was a history of hip hop symposium there, and I just shared a story about being on the campus the first year I'm there, and house music, and it was the first time I had ever heard it because so many students from SU came from New York City, and house music was birthed out of those spaces, and so yeah, I mean, talking about history, listening to music, but it's just, sports and music for me. It's the background for me of my life and the different phases I've been through in my life.
Was there a moment in your life that you thought, I recognize, like, and this, I don't know, I'm not wording this well, but who I am, or this is a moment that I am me in this moment, and I have to be.
You know what? No one has ever asked me that question. That's really good. I think for me, it was when I went to run the Southwest Community Center. And before that, I had done not-for-profit work. And then I had gone to City Hall. Out of doing that not-for-profit work, Sesame Minor asked me to come to City Hall. And it was 3 years into that Jesse retired, Jesse Dowdell. And it was that moment that the me kicked in, because my mind should have told me, stay here in government and follow this road as long as it's going to take you. But the heart and who I was spoke louder and said, that's going back home, going back to Southwest, which was in trouble at the time, financially, environmentally, everything, to go back and really put your mark on what can happen at that community center for the larger community. And what we were able to accomplish there, when I had people come to me and say, you cannot do that job.
Why?
Because you're a woman. Jesse had been there before, Larry Briggs was there before, so there only had been 2 directors there. And here I come, I had worked in the Center for Peace Incorporated, so I'd been there before, but to run it, especially when it was really in trouble at that time. Gangs had come into the center. It was a mess physically, financially. It was in the red. It was just in a bad place, and I established, I believe, a confidence in myself that I could really use not just my internal gifts and the experience that I learned, but I realized then I was a gatherer and a convener of people. And it wasn't me, it was the staff, it was the coalition of partners in the building. Noble was there at the time, and he was, incredibly important in helping us turn that building around. And so that was a defining moment for me of you have to do what your heart tells you need to do. Yeah.
I feel like you've probably seen and experienced a lot of moments that just, even some of the most beautiful moments are probably some of the most deep cutting moments. Like what do you do with a lifetime of those? Like, what if you were giving advice to someone and saying, like, these are the things you're gonna see and deal with if you walk a path that's even one inch similar to mine, what would you say?
It is the peaks and the valleys of life, There are things that I'm glad I didn't know, because if I had known, I might not have gone down that road, but I'm glad I did, because it was the path intended for me and the path that I needed to go down. But if I had a glimpse, I wouldn't have done it. So my advice would be to understand that there are going to be peaks and valleys in the road. To be clear on the road that there are times where you're just going to just stop. You're going to come at forks in the road. There's no right answer. There is an answer that is do your research, listen to your heart, do harm to no one else kind of decision moments in your life, and keep going. I mean, there's no perfection. So people are like, oh my goodness, the place that you're at right now, wow, you got there. Oh my goodness, if you know the bumps and the bruises and the scars and the scratches and the flowers that I've walked on along that way, and it's not just my journey, it's anybody's journey. Anybody's journey. People see what they see, but you don't know what's going on behind it. You don't know that. People won't know until they listen to this that in 2020, I literally was in a bad place, emotionally, psychologically. There was just so much going on that year. And sometimes people in government, elected officials, they're not seen as human. And we're very much human, very much human. During the social justice voices of the murder of George Floyd, I'm dealing with that as just like any other black mom, and I have a 6'3" 20-year-old at that time, 20-year-old young man with a disability who will react to officers' commands very differently than anyone else. And I remember having a conversation with Chief Buckner about that. And really, I really do believe out of that conversation, our CTE program started and some of the diversionary response, just from that experience of, my son, we live in Meadowbrook, and his routine includes taking walks around our neighborhood. And he puts his headphones on, and I'm the deputy mayor of Syracuse, and I still have moments where I'm texting him, you good? You good? Because while most of the people in our neighborhood know him, know that's his routine, or I might not know his name, but that young man is familiar to me. Who knows the new neighbor that comes into our neighborhood who may see him and say, who is that and what is he doing here? And I'm the deputy mayor of the city. And so our experiences, our fears, our hopes, our aspirations don't change because we're in political office or work for public office. And I think that's what we forget sometimes. Come to me and have your concern, and people say to me, I pay your taxes, and I was like, so do I, and I'm not going to cheat me.
I love that. That's a good one. That's a good answer. Yes.
Right.
Is there any? I want to be respectful of your time.
Oh,
is there any? Is there anything else that you would like to say that you'd want to put out there?
People think it's pie in the sky and think I'm naive, but I really believe that Syracuse, I chose this place. I chose to be here. I chose to stay here because sometimes, I've been here 40 years and I still get people say, well, you're not from here. I'm like, okay, I wasn't born here, but my husband is from here. My children were born here. This is my home. I may have been born somewhere else, but Syracuse is the city. I came here and I was barely 17 years old when I went to SU's campus. So Syracuse has raised me, through my adult years, through the years when I really begin to know who I am, through my, late teens into my 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s now. It was Syracuse who shaped who I am. So that's why I call myself an adopted daughter. That's why this is my family. This is why I am just really excited about. We always seem to be on the cusp, and I don't think like we're on the cusp. I'm like, we're there. We're moving there. I'm like, Rochester who? Buffalo who? It's about time. And I'm a spiritual person. And so I really believe what we speak, we manifest. And we speak death, and we speak discouragement, and we speak downtroddenness on our community all the time. And I'm just a person who believes that acknowledge the challenge, but speak life to it, speak encouragement to it, speak aspiration and hope to it, and then do the work. You just can't talk. You got to roll up your sleeves and do the work.
I really appreciated that answer. I think that with all of the misunderstandings, complexity, hate, politics, it's like there are people in our community who are like genuinely afraid for their families,
Absolutely.
for their loved ones. I just think that what a horrific time we're living in with this. And then even people that I'm close to will sometimes have an opinion where I'm like, that's your opinion about that? That's interesting, because I would never think that, and I'm not judging you for it, but I would like to know how you arrived at that opinion.
Oh,
but,
you hear surprised
yeah.
statements from people who are, you wouldn't think were insensitive to what you just described. And my answer to them all the time, particularly African American people, is you ignore that plight of your neighbor, it's going to come knocking at your door. I mean, black people in this nation, we're not free, have been free, you know, in the relative speaking of, you know, time, not a long time.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And every one of those freedoms are systematically trying to be clawed away. So while, you know, I have always said, if you ignore the plight of your neighbor, that plight is going to come knocking at your door. And many times I talk about that, you know, physically for neighborhoods. And I say the vitality of my neighborhood depends on the strength of yours, because we're all connected. And so I never understood in the election people of Latino descent saying they were voting, just put it out there, not voting for Kamala Harris because she was a black woman. And I'm like, I hope that that decision doesn't come back to haunt you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the Latino Fest is going to be downtown. There are people who are not going to go to that.
Yeah.
For fear of being, you know, watched by someone who's in the crowd, you know, who may not even be an ICE agent, but have ICE ideas, who will, you know, blow them in, take pictures, do, you know, and to live in that existence, that is not America.
Yeah.
It just is not. And so what I said to you is what the whole conversation, I feel I am an adopted daughter. I'm part of a family, and I feel we all are part of a family, and I have to protect my family. My family.
I would selfishly ask, because I do believe you'll be mayor, and that's the future of Syracuse. To just keep in mind the Arab community and the hijabi sisters and the Muslim brothers, because I think they're a quieter community sometimes.
They're a quieter community.
But they're growing in Syracuse, and they're doing some pretty great stuff. And if you like food, which try Shawarma Paradise and Kabul. And Kabul's up by the university, so it's kind of close. But I go to Kabul and there's nobody there. I'm like, brother, how do you stay open? But your food's amazing. So yeah. But
you got my contact. Send me the address.
Okay, I will do that.
Food.
Yes. But I truly I do appreciate you coming for this, and yeah, you have a monumental journey ahead of you. So I wish you the best.
Yeah, this is invite me back in 26.
I will do that.
Let's talk about Syracuse.
I will absolutely do that.
Okay.
Yes, I will see if the Obama effect of the aging goes 30 years plus. But yes.
Oh my goodness.
But no, I think that you're tough in the best of ways, and
Thank
I think
you.
that
and compassionate in the best of ways too.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I include that in tough in my version of it.
Okay.
But yes, and yeah, I just I think you have a great story, and I think it's coming to a place where like the climax, the third act is about to come, and I await to see that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent.
I appreciate this.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.